Hey, how's it going? So, consecration of the firstborn. The Lord said to Moses, "Consecrate to me every firstborn male. The first offspring of every womb among the Israelites belongs to me, whether man or animal." Then Moses said to the people, "Commemorate this day, the day you came out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery, because the Lord brought you out of it with a mighty hand. Eat nothing containing yeast. Today, in the month of Abib, you are leaving. When the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Havites, and Jebusites, the land he swore to your forefathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you are to observe this ceremony in this month." I'm going to highlight this. Moses said to the people, "Commemorate this day, the day you came out of Egypt." This has been a common theme in our Bible study this year is don't forget to commemorate the days that God does something big for you. Don't forget to commemorate the days that God does something big for you. Okay? I don't care. It could be a big celebration. It could be a small celebration. But when God shows up in your life and he delivers you from something or he answers your prayer, the least you can do is write it down in your prayer journal. The least you can do is write it down in your prayer journal. I would encourage you to do something even bigger that you're going to see all the time, right? Like in the Bible, they would erect a lot of altars like, oh, God delivered us, so let's put a stack of stones here, or let's have a feast here. I really want everyone that joins this Bible study, I want you guys to start celebrating. You deserve to have joy. You deserve to enjoy and have happiness in this life, and you deserve to celebrate when God moves. You deserve to celebrate when God delivers you or answers your prayers or speaks to you. And I really want to encourage you guys to start commemorating, start erecting altars when God moves in your life so that you're constantly, I want you to, every time you walk past this thing, to be reminded that God moves, to be reminded that God answers prayers. You know what I mean? It's like if there's a day, it's like you celebrate your anniversary with your husband or your birthday, right? Like start celebrating those days that God has delivered something to you. Moving forward. Eat unleavened bread during those 7 days. Nothing with yeast in it is to be seen among you, nor shall any yeast be seen anywhere within your borders. On that day, tell your son, I do this because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. And so not only are you to commemorate to remind yourselves, but then you're also to teach this to your children. So start telling your kids about the big answered God moments in your life. Like my daughter yesterday, I was like baffled and mind blown because I've been, going back and forth with a decision. And my daughter literally had to be like, well, look at how God moves in your life. She's like, anytime you feel this strong pull towards something, it's God calling you to it. And she's like, I've just seen how God moves in your life, and I trust that this is from God for you. And it's like, because I've shared with my daughter all of the wins, because I'm constantly telling her, I feel like God's calling me to do this. And my daughter's older now. Today is her birthday. Happy birthday, Mia. She's 20. So she's a little bit older. So she's had a couple of years of observing as an adult, right? I mean, whatever, an adult. But she's had a couple of years of being able to observe, and she's able to see, oh, this is what God moving looks like. This is what it sounds like. Oh, well, the last time you felt like this and God was calling you to do something and you were fasting and you were praying, and she was like, look what happened, So it's like, it's important that we're teaching our children and like sharing our testimony with our kids, let alone sharing our testimony with random people, but share your testimony with your kids as it's happening. Okay? So this observance will be for you like a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead that the law of the Lord is to be on your lips. For the Lord brought you out of Egypt with his mighty hand. You must keep this ordinance at the appointed time, year after year. After the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites and gives it to you as he promised on oath to you and your forefathers, you are to give over to the Lord the first offspring of every womb. All the firstborn males of your livestock belong to the Lord. Redeem with a lamb every firstborn donkey. But if you do not redeem it, break its neck. Redeem every firstborn among your sons. So it's basically saying offer up a lamb. You don't have to offer up the actual donkey, but you can offer up a lamb and sacrifice. And remember, the sacrifices in the Bible were many feasts, were many celebrations. So every time there's if you have a firstborn donkey born to your family, celebrate it. Sacrifice a lamb to the Lord. And then guess what? You're going to have that feast. You're going to eat that sacrifice with your family. So it's just like, don't look at these sacrifices as like God's always making you lose. It's like God's really just making you carve time out to celebrate. Like, wow, that's great. Thanks, God. I would love to have a feast with my family to celebrate this, new baby donkey that was just born. Like, are you kidding me? If I had a farm and, my cow gave birth, I would want to celebrate that. Like, that's, it's awesome. Anyway, in days to come, when your son asks you, what does this mean? Say to him, with a mighty hand, the Lord brought us out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. When Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, the Lord killed every firstborn in Egypt, both man and animal. This is why I sacrifice to the Lord the first male offspring of every womb and redeem each of my firstborn sons. And it will be like a sign on your hand and a symbol on your forehead that the Lord brought us out of Egypt with his mighty hand. Crossing the sea, when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road through the Philistine country, though that was shorter. God did not take them on the Philistine road. He did not take them on the shortest path, for God said, if they face war, they might change their minds or return to Egypt. So God led the people around by the desert road toward the Red Sea. The Israelites went up out of Egypt armed for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him because Joseph had made the sons of Israel swear an oath. He said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up with you from this place. After leaving Succoth, they camped at Etham on the edge of the desert. By day, the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of a cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light. So by day, God came as a cloud to guide them, and by night, he came as fire. I also want to highlight the part that God knew that if they faced war on the road, that they would get weary and turn back. And it just goes to show that God knows you and he cares about you, and he's not always going to make everything hard for you. It's like he might take you down a little bit of a longer path, but how loving and merciful that he's like, you know what? I don't think that they can handle a battle right now, And everyone always says, oh, God's not going to give you a battle that you can't handle. And I think that's true, because it's like he doesn't always give you battles. Like sometimes he's going to reroute you out of grace and mercy, so that you don't have to fight a battle. And I love that. I love that. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. Then the Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites to turn back and encamp near Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. They are to encamp by the sea directly opposite Baal-zephon. Pharaoh will think the Israelites are wandering around the land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. But I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelites did this. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, what have we done? We have let the Israelites go and have lost their services. So he had his chariot made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 of the best chariots, along with all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites, who were marching out boldly. The Egyptians, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, horsemen and troops, pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they camped by the sea near Pi-hahiroth, opposite Baal-zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were 2 graves in Egypt?" Sorry, I'm adjusting this. I can't really see at this angle. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt to leave us alone? Let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert." Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry land. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen." Then the angel of God, who had been traveling in front of Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of cloud also moved from in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. Throughout the night, the cloud brought darkness to the one side and light to the other, so neither went near the other all night long. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He made the wheels of their chariots come off so that they had difficulty driving, and the Egyptians said, "Let us get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea went back to its place. The Egyptians were fleeing toward it, and the Lord swept them into the sea. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and horsemen. The entire army of Pharaoh that had followed the Israelites into the sea, not one of them survived. But the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. That day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore. And when the Israelites saw the great power the Lord displayed against Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and put their trust in him and in Moses, his servant. So that is all for our Old Testament portion of the day. Starting in our New Testament portion of the day, we have Matthew chapter 27, verse 45 through 66, the death of Jesus. From the 6th hour until the 9th hour, darkness came over all the land. About the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a stick, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." How despicable. He's on his last breath, and yet they're still like almost like lusting after his power. Ooh, let's wait and see if Elijah comes to save him. It's like they're watching a man die and yet still trying to get every last bit of him, When Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, He gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks split. The tombs broke open, and the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs, and after Jesus' resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God." Many women were there, watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's son. The burial of Jesus. As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who had himself become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body, and Pilate ordered that it be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb. The guard at the tomb. The next day, the one after Preparation Day, the chief priests and the Pharisees went to Pilate. "Sir," they said, "we remember that while he was still alive, that deceiver said, 'After 3 days I will rise again.' So I'm going to highlight this, that deceiver. 'After 3 days I will rise again.' So give the order for the tomb to be made secure until the 3rd day. Otherwise, his disciples may come and steal the body and tell the people that he has been raised from the dead. This last deception will be worse than the first." "Take a guard," Pilate answered. "Go make the tomb as secure as you know how." So they went and made the tomb secure by putting a seal on the stone and posting the guard. So that is all for our New Testament portion of the day. Let's get into our portion from Proverbs chapter 4, verses 20 through 27. "My son, pay attention to what I say and listen closely to my words. Do not let them out of your sight. Keep them within your heart, for they are life to those who find them and health to a man's whole body. Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Put away perversity from your mouth. Keep corrupt talk far from your lips. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Make level paths for your feet and take only ways that are firm. Do not swerve to the right or to the left, and keep your foot from evil." So that is all for our daily Bible study. If you guys have the goal of reading the Bible, subscribe to our YouTube. It is prayer_warrior Bible study. We go live every single day here on TikTok, and we read this Bible plan, and then we upload these lives every single day to our YouTube. So if you missed the live or you want to re-listen to a certain portion of the Bible that you liked, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you never miss a Bible reading. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and I will see you all tomorrow.